So you want to learn Go. Here's how I would approach this problem, whether you're new to programming or someone with a bit of experience. So I've got a couple of resources for you today. We're going to go through them. I'm going to tell you why I like them and show you how to get started with those. So the very first one is actually the tour of Go. So if you go to go.dev/learn, what you can see here is a ton of information on getting started. And this one's particularly nice too. There's a section up here called Why Go at the top. And the key takeaway from this is that if you're curious about like why companies are using Go, why you should learn Go, there's information about that here. This can also help you make a case to like a business partner at work, indicating why you should look at learning Go or upskilling your team to use Go instead of whatever you're using, like maybe Java or C Sharp. Let's say you're already committed to learning Go though. So you can take this page right here, follow the steps here to install Go and get started. But the thing that I really like here, a couple really key things. There's the tour of Go. This is how I started learning Go. I will say that I had some experience with other programming languages before getting into this. But one of the nice things here is with the tour of Go, you can actually type up code and execute it. So we can run this here and you can see that it prints, what it says that it's printing. You can move through the tour and do all sorts of different things. The tour will cover packages, imports, exported names, functions, all sorts of fun stuff. And it can help you get started with learning Go. Another really great option here is Go by example. So this is actually the one that we'll talk about next. It's interesting that they linked it here. I didn't know that they did that, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. But on top of this, so there's also guided learning journeys. These are really, really nice. So if you want to get into web development with Go, you can start here. And if we click this, it'll take us to another website called Go Web Examples. So you can go through these and learn how to build Hello World HTTP servers using Gorilla Mux for routing. You might not want Gorilla Mux anymore. You might still want it. It's totally fine to still use. But there's also stuff in the standard library at this point that might be more helpful. Connecting to a MySQL database, templates, assets and files, middleware, basically everything you would want when building web servers in Go. So that's a tool that you could use. There's also this section for CLIs. So this is a workshop on CLIs by SPF 13. If you don't know who SPF 13 is, he is an individual named Steve Francia. And this workshop goes through building command line applications using Cobra. So Cobra is a framework that he had built out for building command line applications. It's really, really nice. It's one of my favorite frameworks for building CLIs, especially if the CLI is rather complex. I might go towards flags or like clap or something if I were building something smaller, but Cobra tends to be a fantastic choice for big CLIs. Okay. And then if we keep going through all of this, you can see that there's quick labs. So if you want to learn about deploying Go apps on Google Cloud, here you go. Using Go code to work with Google Cloud data sources, getting started with Go on App Engine. This is also Google Cloud. It's worth mentioning that all of the quick labs are Google Cloud focused, but that's another option as well. And then there's just information here through tutorials. So if you don't know how to create modules, or maybe you are like me and you hop between languages and sometimes you need a refresher, you can go through a tutorial on how to create a module and make sure you're doing it correctly, or developing a web service. So here's an interactive tutorial for building a web service as well. And then on their site, they have a plethora of other resources. So there's Arden Labs, who is fairly prolific in the Go community. They do a lot of consulting and training and other really helpful things for the community. Boss Sauce Creative, personalized Go training for teams. Gopher Guides, this is really nice as well. It's training for developers by developers. I'm unfamiliar with this one, so I haven't looked at this yet, but it looks like on-site classroom training on Go and consulting on distributed system architectures in India, which sounds really neat. There's also books, if that's more of your speed. I have not read any of these books, so I'm not sure about the quality of them. But I will say that generally the companies that are listed here are pretty good publicists for programming books. So I'm sure that they're also really great. Okay. While we're here, I also want to just point out a couple more things. So there's the Go user manual, so a complete introduction to building software in Go. And then there's also documentation for the standard library. I still believe that one of the best ways to grow as a developer is to practice a lot, but also read the standard library source code and documentation of the tools that you're using. You can learn so much from that. Okay. We're going to move on to our next one. So our next example is actually called Go by Example. So I hinted at this in the last one. This is Go by Example. So the thing that I really like about this is it's just really straightforward. So if you want to figure out how recursion works in Go, you can click on the recursion example here, and it shows you how to use recursion. So you can see that we define a fact function here. It's doing a little bit of factorial recursion. So you can see here we're calling fact from within fact. And then we have a Fibonacci function here. You can see that we're specifying it in fib right here, like so. So the point I'm getting at is you can go through this and find specific things if you're curious about it. So maybe you're coming from a language that has enums and you can't figure out how to do enums in Go, which totally makes sense because enums aren't exactly really a thing in Go. So you could find this example. So you'd say Go by example enums, and you can read information about enums. So Go doesn't have an enum type as a distinct language feature, but enums are simple to implement using existing language idioms. And then they show you how to do that. So here's your enums right here. So you have state idle, state connected, state error, state retrying, and that's essentially the equivalent. So Go by example is really nice if you're looking for a specific, really clear-cut example on how to do something. Another fun one is timers. I ended up using this example a while back for one of my personal projects that I'm working on, and it shows you how to build a timer and a ticker. And you can use these to execute code every time that a timer were to tick, or a ticker were to tick, I suppose. And then timers can be used to measure the amount of time between starts and stops. Go by example is really fantastic. The farther you scroll down here, the more complex you get into. So if we scroll back up to the top, you can see you learn about if and else and for and things of that nature, which is helpful. But where this really starts to shine is whenever you get to, I would say, probably anything past timeouts or maybe select. So at this point, you start to get into some of the more complex things like worker pools and wait groups and mutexes and stateful Go routines and all sorts of fun stuff like that. Recover. I don't know too many examples that show you how to use recover. There's also information on reading files, writing files, so much more. It's a really great tool for getting those clear-cut examples for Go. But what if you need to kind of brush up on your fundamental programming skills? Maybe that's something that these Go exercises aren't going to help you with, and you need a bit of a refresher with the fundamentals. Well, that's where something like Brilliant.org can help you. Brilliant helps you get smarter every day with thousands of interactive lessons in math, science, programming, data analysis, and even AI. One of my personal favorite things about Brilliant is that they help you build critical thinking skills through problem solving, not memorizing. So while you're building real-world knowledge on specific topics, you also become a better thinker. It's important that you understand what you're building, whether you're typing it out yourself or an AI is typing it out for you. So I just am a huge fan of anything that helps you embrace those critical thinking skills, and Brilliant does a fantastic job with it. I've been going through some of Brilliant's updated programming courses as a way to brush up on some of my foundational skills, but also learn about some things that I didn't really get the education for during high school or college. I have an unconventional background when it comes to computer science, and honestly, a lot of the things that Brilliant covers are things that were kind of skimmed over for me during my education. One of my personal favorite things that I am seeing from Brilliant's catalog, though, is these lessons that are focused on helping you learn to think like a programmer. They are focused on helping you break down complex problems into manageable chunks of code, and you have a nice editor experience that really doesn't get hung up on the syntax, but more so lets you think about how to break these problems down into logical bytes of code, which is fantastic, especially if you're starting out. I also really like the fact that one of the lessons that I went through was focused on building image filters, and the code itself is very constrained to a small piece that lets you focus on manipulating the values of pixels, whether you're increasing the brightness or lowering the brightness of those pixels. It gives you something fun and visual that you get to work with as well, which is why I think it's a fantastic tool for brushing up on your fundamentals with programming or exploring anything else in the rest of their catalog. You can try everything that Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days. Visit brilliant.org/codewithcypert or scan the QR code on your screen. Or you can click the link in the description. I'll even make it easier for you. You'll also get 20% off of an annual premium subscription if you decide to convert. Thank you so much to brilliant.org for sponsoring this video. So now that you've brushed up on your fundamentals, let's get back to the Go specific items. So I am a big fan of John Calhoun. If you have listened to the Go Time podcast, you'd be familiar with him. He's also, I believe he's spoken at GopherCon as well. But he has a courses website, and one of his free courses is called Gophercises. So Gophercises is a free coding exercise for budding gophers. It's free to sign up. He does take your email address. That gives you access and allows you to store progress and all sorts of things that you get from personalization. And he says he won't spam you here. I totally agree. I have been on his email list, and I am very, very picky about the things that I subscribe to, and I unsubscribe very, very quickly. He doesn't spam you, and the stuff he sends you is actually useful, especially if you're wanting to learn more about Go. So what is Gophercises? Gophercises is 20 different miniature applications, packages, tools, etc. that you'll build, and they each help you focus on one specific part of the language. So you'll find something that helps you focus on channels, something that helps you focus on mutexes, something that helps you focus on Go routines, functional options, chaining interfaces, various parts of the standard library such as I/O, time, and many other packages. These are really helpful to learn how to use. You'll learn reading input from the command line and much more. So one of the things that I really like about this is it's free. Free resources are great. And again, John is great, and his courses are great. I've paid for several of the paid courses as well. But starting out with a free course is really fantastic. So walking through these exercises, you get to build a quiz game, a URL shortener, choose your own adventure, an HTML link parser, a sitemap builder, a hacker rank problem, CLI task manager, phone number normalizer, all sorts of things that really let you focus on learning Go and show some of the unique benefits that Go provides when tackling these problems, but also things that are, something that you might actually build in a real world, like a phone number normalizer, something that could be, if you don't pull in a package for it, you might end up building it yourself. Same with like a URL shortener. A lot of companies shorten their own URLs, and they might choose to build their own URL shortener, or maybe they'll choose to pay someone, but being able to build one is a really strong selling point for you. There's more here. I won't spoil them all, but you should go through this and check it out. It's free. There's literally nothing to lose. All right. Finally, for our very last one, I want to talk about one that I've already mentioned a little bit. And if you've seen my Zig video on a similar topic, you probably know this, but this is Go's source code. I have learned so much from Zig and looking through Zig's source code that I started doing the same thing with Go. And I'm finding stuff that, I've been writing Go for 6 or 7 years now, and I'm finding things that I see them and I'm like, oh, that makes sense why that's implemented like that. I have never thought about that. And I get things from reading the source code here and being able to kind of see how the Go team builds out the language itself. And I can take parts of that and use that in my own code as well. So some of the things that I think are particularly neat, let's just grab... let's find one of these. What seems fun? I do a lot with networking. So let's go into the net package and we can take a look at HTTP because that's mostly what I'm working with. And you can see, here's the source code for the HTTP client. Is there anything particularly interesting in this? I'm not too sure, but I guarantee we can find something. So we have a struct here. You can see that there's a transport type. It's using a round tripper. There's a function for checking redirects. So that's something that if you were to instantiate your own client, you can provide your own check redirect function. There's a cookie jar, timeout, so much more. So the thing that I think is really nice about this, though, is twofold. You can learn how Go works under the hood, and my personal belief is that if you have a better understanding on how the car works, metaphorically speaking, you will be a better driver of that car. You know the limits you can push it to. Same with the language and platform for Go. If you know how this language works, you can choose choices to optimize performance, whether that's memory consumption or CPU time. You have a better understanding of that, and it allows you to build better software. The second part, Go is a very simple language. And the thing that I really like about Go is that the language and standard library aren't making it simple for you. They're not hiding a bunch of complexity. Don't get me wrong, some of this stuff is kind of complex, and there's some complexity. You can't get rid of all the complexity, right? Some problems are just inherently complex. But the thing that I really like about the source code itself is that it shows you that Go can almost always be simple. if we look at how this code processes, so here's the send method on that HTTP client, right? So send issues an HTTP request. The caller should close rest.body when done reading for it. If we look through this, there's nothing complex going on. We have that request object. We check RT, which is a round tripper, and if the round tripper is nil, then we go ahead and close the body. We check to see if the URL is nil, and if so, we close the body. And we're returning errors in these cases as well. But basically, all we're doing right here is checking to make sure that this is valid, and if it's not invalid, if it's invalid, we return errors. We can fork our request into a shallow clone, and there's header checks here, so we're assigning headers if necessary. We check to see if the URL has authorization headers or has a user and do some authorization type stuff. But the point I'm getting at one last time to really drive this home is that if you can read Go code, you can read the standard library. It's simple, it's easy to follow, and it's great for learning how a massive project like a programming language and the standard library and everything that comes with it is built out. So I think these are probably the resources that I would recommend if you want to learn Go and brush up on your programming skills. Hopefully you found this helpful, and if you did, let me know in the comments below. Thank you and have a great day.